Hello, join us this week on Tuesday night's Loose Links. We've got a brand new panel with brand new topics and maybe going a bit more down personal roads than usual. All that on tonight's show. Joining me, the Queen of Liverpool, is Kerry Gillespie.
Hello.
The woman that absolutely adores coming on every show and wishes she was here every time. That's Sue Humphrey.
Hello.
And the star with the glamour that always gives us that glitz and glamour, that's Claire Browning Bay. Good evening. Well done, all three of you. Good evening. As we talk about this week, some families are still in regular contact with their care homes, but are still not allowed to visit their elderly relatives because of COVID. So it got us thinking about the elderly. This is why Kerry's on, because we're going to talk about, do you think in the UK we do enough for the elderly? Also, Eureka Johnson has been in headlines for maybe not some very glamorous news this week. She talks about having a threesome. Does it really spice up your sex life as you get older? And also we finish on the students at Sir Robert Patterson Academy delivering Easter eggs to a Lincoln County Hospital for poorly people. But do you believe awareness is important and healing is being with other people? All that on tonight's show. Good evening, panel.
Evening.
All right, can we do that again? I had to do this last week. You're all a bit boring, right? We're going to try that again. Are you ready? Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
All right, Sue, I saw your face then. I saw your face. Are we all right? Kerry, this is like second time in a month. Are you feeling all right?
Nope. Obviously not.
Feeling off the screen. Sue, we haven't seen you for a while, but you've had a lovely weekend away. Did you have a nice time?
Yeah, I had a super weekend with my family, helping to celebrate my daughter-in-law's 40th birthday. We had a Kaylee. It was great fun.
How lovely. And Claire, you're the queen of loose links, aren't you, really? Yeah, she's the step in every single time.
I'm boring, I've got no life, that's why.
I didn't even, to be fair to Claire, I didn't even give a pre-warning this time. I just sent her the email.
I just sent me an email and I wasn't even on. I went, I'm not on, you've got the wrong person.
And I called her on, but let's do what we do best and have a bit of a gossip in this week's news. So this week, we start with some families still not have regular contact with their relatives in care homes, more than 2 years after the start of the pandemic. This will now change after Scotland's government puts a proposal of Annie's Law into national standards. Residents will now be allowed a named visitor into a care home, even if restrictions are in place. So it got me thinking about the elderly, really, and it got me thinking about. No, I didn't read it like that.
Offended.
I didn't read it like that.
You can go off, people.
Do you think we do enough for our elderly, or do you think we could be doing more?
Well, when I read the question in the email, the first question I asked myself was, who do you mean by we?
Well, I just as Great Britain, really. Do you think when we think about what's that? Has anybody ever watched The Real Marigold Hotel when it's been on telly?
Yeah. Oh no,
not
that.
Yeah, but see in the film, there's a series called The Real Marigold Hotel where British celebrities in their older years are going over to different countries to see what retirement is like over there. And I think when I've watched programs like that and the luxuries that they stay in and the communities and all of that, I don't think the UK are doing enough for elderly people, really.
Yeah, but they're not paying for that, are they?
Mm.
No, it's a TV program. It's come and it's like an extended holiday, if you like, and you always feel better when the sun's shining. And I doubt very much if they go to somewhere that's rainy and gloomy and snowy. But so I don't think that's particularly a true reflection of what retirement could be like in other places, although loads of people do retire abroad. And in probably up until the last couple of decades, living in Europe, especially Spain, for example, or Malta or places like that, was much cheaper. I'm not too sure if it is now, but I know from where I lived previously, there were people who used to go and spend the whole winter in Malta.
Yeah.
And they'd stay in a hotel, retired people, and they could afford to stay in a hotel. They weren't particularly wealthy. It was cheaper to live in a hotel in Malta than it was to pay the utility bills over here. But getting back to your question, which is the important thing, it's really difficult to say whether or not we as a society are doing enough. We're a very fragmented society, if you like. The insular, cellular, close-knit, extended family doesn't actually exist much in this country now, because children move away from their parents for work, and so on, just like mine have. I moved away from where they grew up, but they in turn have moved away to the West Country and to London. So we haven't got that extended family, for example, like the Japanese do, or Asian families living in this country, where it's sort of expected that their parents, when they get less able to look after themselves, will just go and live with them. And we don't have that sort of ethos in this country.
No, we don't.
Having gone through all this with my mom recently, as you know, in the last sort of 5 years, well, more than that, 10 years, she was living 2.5, 3 hours drive away from me and not close to any other family. And when she began to suffer badly with dementia, we had to move her into a residential home. And we thought that was the best thing for her, because I couldn't look after her. But I did feel really guilty. I did feel really guilty. I understand, but I haven't had experience of it, that places like Holland and other European countries are trying new ways of integrating older people into society. So they're living as independently as possible, but they're not shut away from different age groups. Does that make sense? So it's sort of mixed housing, if you like. And I think that's quite a good idea, because it's like anything. If you put an old person in a place that is just full of old people, very often they'll lose that interaction, and that they won't get a lot of sort of outside interest, outside stimulus, and that just makes them less and less able, really.
There was a programme, I'm not sure when, how long ago, but it was just that, and I'm sure it was a care home, and they brought children in, and I mean young children, and they did an experiment, and I think they did like obs on the older people, and then they did them after the young children had been in, and the difference was amazing.
Yes.
Or by these young children just going in, because young kids, because of course I work with young kids as well, are just so funny, and they come out with exactly what they want to. So yeah, if they could do that, I think that would be great, you know, because even it doesn't have to, of course, it won't be youngsters, but like teenagers, you know, a housing unit that accommodates teenagers and the older people, then hopefully, you know, that would work.
Yeah, I mean, this scheme that I'm thinking of, I'm sure it was in Holland.
Right.
You know, they were the people with dementia were living independently but supported, and you know, they would be taken shopping and they would be this done and that done, but it's like everything, it comes down to money. I mean, I don't think we pay our care workers anywhere near enough. But a lot of care homes are privately owned, not state owned, and I still haven't heard what this government is meant to be doing about amalgamating hospital and care and everything else to actually improve things. That it's meant to be top of their agenda, but there's not much happened, I don't think, yet. But it is interesting because I've just been having conversations this weekend, age 73, about you know, what the next 10 years will look like for me, and if I'll carry on living here or if I'll move closer to one of them, or
oh no, Sue, that's not allowed.
So
it's not allowed.
So it's an interesting thing. It's very close to home, actually. If you just knew the conversation that we'd had this weekend, it's very close to home, and I'm fairly still capable, I hope.
But do you think we get to, let's open it to all three of you, do you think there is a generation that is forgotten? Do you think older people get to a certain age and feel like they've lost their voice, they've lost speaking out and stuff like that? Because I've had situations like that where they describe it as lonely, but it's not really loneliness. It's like there was such part of society in their 40s and their 50s and working every day and childcare and grandkids and all of this, to all of a sudden being at home at retirement, maybe not having that many friends because most of your social life was within work because you worked so much. So do you think there is a generation that is almost forgotten about? Kerry, let's go to you.
I don't know if it's forgotten about, but to be honest, I don't know what's out there for the older generation. I know you've got age concern where you can go and have a coffee and stuff like that, but there's nothing that I can think of which I've seen advertised or anything. But then again, I'm not looking for anything like that. I just want to touch on what Sue said then about like a retirement home. One of my friends' parents, elderly parents, went to a retirement. This is what makes me sad. She worked all her life. Her husband worked all his life and he passed away, and she did have dementia, and she went into like residential care, and it ate up all her savings. She sold her house, and I think over 2 years it was about something like £45,000. And the saddest thing is that you can say you can work all your life because you want to make it better for yourself and you want to do things when you retire. And then there's a point after further on into retirement where you do get maybe too old to travel, and you can't live alone. And it's the private care system, which literally, and I just don't like that. I think that's really sad. Everything that you've worked for all your hard-earned money, it's eaten up, and it's sad. And that's the thing that I don't like, and that's the thing that's worrying, isn't it? Is that it's amazing, and it would be amazing if every family looked after the elders. There's some elders that don't have family. And I think there was a thing a few years ago, wasn't there, about checking on your neighbours. I think it was through COVID, about how people are, because it was so isolated. you know, it's got to be brought into the community and the neighbourly thing, I think, as well. I personally, but I'm not looking, don't see a lot advertised out there to get anyone. And then again, even if you have things for the older generation, do they have to travel? How can they get there? Do they have to pay for travel expenses to get there? It's just, I don't know.
But is that bad on us, Kerry, really? Is that bad that we don't know about those things and we don't know how to support the elderly, and that's why they feel forgotten and left? Because actually, we're not doing anything to support them.
I think if you're in that job role, you probably be more aware of things available. I mean, if I had an elderly neighbour and I'd spoke to them and they were struggling and don't get out and they were quite lonely, you know, I'd look around. I'd actually look locally around for someone if I was in that position. But off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what's available.
And Claire, what do you think about what Kerry's just said, really, about, because I completely agree with that. We save all our lives to better our lives when we get to retirement, and we work hard, we work all of God's hours, we do so much. And then actually when we get to that age, if we can't look after ourselves, all that money is taken away. And I think what makes me really sad about it is, and I've been in it, so I'm not crucialising anybody out there, but we can support the people that can't get work, we can support the people that can't get housing, we can support all of that. But I don't hear a crying out from the government about elderly and what we can do for elderly and how we can support them.
Exactly, and this is what I don't like, is like you just said, they work all their lives, you know, and they try and put savings away for either their children or for their retirement. And like they say, if they have to go into a care home, all their money's taken away from them. And if they haven't got the money, then, you know, if they can get in anywhere. But again, this was brought up on another topic, is the prison service. You know, you've got these poor people, as in the elderly, who've worked, majority of them, all their lives, you know, paid into the system, but then you get the prison service. You go in, you don't go into it for a job, but, you know, you go in and you've got a roof over your head, you've got warmth, you've got, they try and rehabilitate you, which I'm not saying is wrong at all, 3 hot meals a day. And then you've got our elderly who, you know, if they're not looked after, like you say, a lot of them haven't got family, you know, they're just left on their own. And, you know, especially now in this day and age, you know, with fuel prices and everything, and not just fuel, it's food costs. I mean, gosh, you know, you just don't realise how much money before was spent on food, but recently going shopping, you know, even in, you know, the brand stores that we all know, it's terrible. So I do feel for them.
Do you remember, I remember with you touching on that, I remember when COVID hit and everyone was going out the first time out and clearing the shelves, and there was a picture in one of the main newspapers of an elderly gentleman that probably only made 1 trip a week, 1 trip whatever, to the shops, and there was nothing on the shelves at all. So, you know, that hit home, actually. That was like really absolutely sad, because, you know, that was a gentleman that you know, still got out and went to the shops, probably not every day, couldn't get there every day. And then you've got everyone else going out like scavengers, just trying to pick up everything without a care in the world for anybody else, especially the isolated or the people on their own.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. There's got to be something, you know, done for our older community, because as we go on in life, it's going to get worse, you know, before it's going to get better. You know, with everything just going up and up and up, you know, by the time I retire.
Oh, there's no hope for me then.
I was going to say,
absolutely no hope for me. Sue, what was you going to say?
The trouble is, we're an aging population. We are an aging population. You know, people are living longer, and we're asking those who are still working to pay into a system. It's like, you know, that buying forward thing, you know, where you buy a coffee for somebody and you don't want it, but it's the next person who gets it, you know, or someone comes in who can't afford a coffee but desperately needs a cup of coffee. I think they call it pay it forward or something, don't they? And we're asking, like my son and my daughter-in-law and my son-in-law, to pay into a system to pay for our care, and somehow I'm not particularly happy with that either. But I honestly don't know what the solution is. Just very quickly, I noticed on my council tax bill that came a few weeks ago, there's a charge now for social care.
Oh.
Actually shown on my council tax bill. So, you know, I guess everyone is contributing to the council, because very often it's the council that funds the care homes, isn't it?
Well, that's a good thing. At least it's coming forward now. But do you think, panel, one of you grab this, do you think that when we're born, we are almost focused all the time to think about our death?
Yeah.
So then when we get like 20s onwards, there's all about, well, you've got to save for your funeral and you've got to make sure there's a will written, and you've got to, do you think we're always focused on death? But as the UK, do you think we are all afraid of death in the same respect, that we don't talk about it and we push it away?
I had the same conversation with my son today. He came and sat with me for a while. It's very rare because I'm not at work. And I was watching Movies 24, and he laughs at it because he just says, oh, you know what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the adverts in between all these are exactly that. Every single one was on about, you know, when you know, save, it's only £1 something per month and all this. And I just said to him, I went, you know what? I says, it's all pay out. You know, I'm paying a mortgage, I'm paying this, I'm paying that. And now they want to pay for when I'm dead to make sure that somebody pays. Do you know what I mean? And it's just frightening, you know, because, well, you know, I don't know.
I used to get worried as I got older about just having a state pension and not enough to live on, because it was really bad years and years ago. A state pension was hardly anything. And I don't want it. I've prepared to not just have a state pension because I want that. I don't want to have a few £100 a month or whatever it amounts to, a state pension. Well, it might be different by the time I retire anyway, because that's got to wait till you're older and you're thinking, you know, it's not one thing, it's another. And it is about saving, especially when you've got children. You don't want your children to take on paying for your funeral, do you? You know, and it is, I don't think of it, it's not there in my mind. I know it's there, but I don't fret over it or worry over it.
Do you think when you have got a family though, and you have got children, because when I think of me and my sister, so for your example, I would say my sister is very much closer to my blood family than I am. So because of her circumstances, she lives with my mum at the moment, and she's lived with my mum for the last couple of years. And there's a part of her, I think, we suddenly lost our Nan. Nan died, when did Nan die? Nan died 2007, 2008, something like that. But we saw her the day before, and she had a blood clot years ago and was told never to smoke again. And she was a secret smoker. So she was found in a chair with, luckily the fag was out, but the ashtray next to her dead. And ever since then, I talked to my mum about my sister moving out, and she's always talking about moving out and doing this and doing that and doing the other. But I think now, because that suddenly happened to her mum, my sister now is afraid of leaving mum on her own, or leaving mum living on her own. She doesn't want to turn up to find a death. But that's the risk of life, isn't it? Do you feel like there's pressure on our children to take responsibility for us when we're older.
That's the last thing I want.
Is it?
It is absolutely the last thing I want. Again, it's really difficult. You know, as I say, we had conversations this weekend about whether or not I should move to Monmouth, for example, because Monmouth isn't far away from where my daughter lives. And it would make sense for two arms of the family to be in the same place, so that my family who lives in London could come and visit all of us in the same place. I mean, that makes total sense. But it's a really hard thing to have to accept. It's honestly, I can't tell you, as an independent woman, you know, who's been on her own for 20 plus years, and made a new life for herself, it's really difficult to actually accept that. And that's why I'm taking so long to take the decision, because I know that that move will be my last move. You know, what I actually said, and I don't want to sound morbid, because I'm not morbid.
No.
But what I actually said to my daughter a while back was, I just want to drop dead in the middle of a choir rehearsal or a concert. Because actually that will be hard for you. It'll be, you know, it will be hard. It'll be a shock. But actually, I would much rather go like that.
Something that you enjoyed.
You know, than be like my mum was, you know, who for the last 4 years of her life didn't know me or anybody. And the last 2 years was really, really poorly. I mean, physically poorly, as well as having, you know, very bad dementia. I would just hate that.
That's what my mum said. My mum just said, you know, because she was married for a long time and lost her husband about 4 years ago. So she's on her own, but she's, you know, there's 4 of us. And I've always said, you know, you're more than welcome to come to me. But she said, I don't want to put on you. I went, you're not putting on me. You're my mum. And if I can help, you know, the only thing is I've got an upstairs bathroom. I've got a downstairs toilet, but then it would be that. But, you know, we could sort that out. But I'd hate to think of my mum in a care home if I've got the space for her. And I know it'd be difficult for us all, because, you know, my mum brought us up as they do. Your mum looks after you, and then the roles we reverse, and then you're there then to look after your mum. But I wouldn't mind that. You know what I mean? If you could do that for your mum, to know that she feels. But like you said, Sue, you know, you've been so independent for all that time. You don't want to put on your children and for them to look after you. But
I know some people though that have sort of taken. Kerry, before we carry on, can I just ask you to squeeze away from the camera and turn you've turned your light on. There we go. We can see you a little bit more. You were going dark and dark.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Going dark.
You were going really dark. But some people, and Sue, let's go to you and ask you the question, because you may be able to answer it. Some people have taken, that I know, that have taken control of their elderly life. So she's got, I'm not going to name her because it's not fair, but she's got a group of friends, and she hit the age of 60, and she had children and grandchildren and all of that, and she went through the same conversation about, I don't want it to be responsible on my kids, I don't in the same respect, I don't want to be on my own, I don't want to do this, that and the other. And all her single friends, so there was like 5 of them, bought a house. And they all have their own bedroom in the house, but actually they all look after each other. So if one's struggling one day and the other, Sue, do you think that's a good idea, that we take our own control?
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant idea, while everyone is, 60 is no age, you know, while everyone is fairly fit and well, it's a brilliant idea. And it's a brilliant idea even when people start to get a bit frailer. But there are some conditions, like dementia, that absolutely require specialists, you know, help, absolutely, and support. And in a way, I was lucky with my mum because she wasn't particularly, she had very bad arthritis, so she wasn't particularly mobile. So I never worried about her going and wandering off when she was still in her own home, because she wasn't well enough to go wandering off. And neighbours used to do her shopping, or I'd do an online shop and get it delivered for her.
Well, you used to travel miles, didn't you?
I used to travel to Preston and back in the day to see her. Yeah. Which is a heck of a long way. And sometimes I'd drive over and go in when she was, in the last few years, I'd go in and she'd say, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, and that's devastating.
That's 3 hours driving. Or, "What the hell are you doing here?" Yeah, I mean, really, she could be really quite aggressive with it, in the later stages. And that was just heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking.
Well, finishing on the subject, an inspirational woman that we lost on Sunday, unfortunately. We send our condolences to June Brown's family and friends. Dot Cotton, as she's better known. She played on our screens Dot Cotton for 35 years. She was born in 1927 and she sadly lost her life on Sunday. So we send a lot of love to the EastEnders cast, and we also send a lot of love to her friends and family. But tell us what you guys think as well. Do you think we do enough for the elderly in the UK? Do you think we need to be doing more? Do we need to be thinking about different ways of educating us as young people on how to support them? And how would you like your retirement to be? Do you think you will go abroad, or do you think you will be happy to go in a care home, or would you take the idea of moving in a house with a couple of friends? Remember, you are the 5th panel member out there. Your view is just as important as ours. Well, going from one subject to another now, ladies. This is going to be quite interesting. We're going down personal road a bit. So, Kerry, this is your favourite subject. So we've got, but wouldn't rule out a threesome with 2 strangers. The TV personality 54, Eureka Johnson, said she would never say never to experimenting in the bedroom after watching Channel 4 racy news show Open House. The great sex experiment this week. Eureka has recently appeared on Celebrities Go Dating after splitting from her 3rd husband in 2019. However, admitted it could be messy if she was to add another lover into a serious relationship. Eureka did put her bedroom antics alive on TV, saying she couldn't consider a threesome as part of a serious relationship, but would never say never to a night with more than one. So, Claire, do you think it's important to keep things fresh in the bedroom when you're in a relationship?
Why are you asking me that when I've been on my own for 13 years?
But do you, when you have been in relationships, do you think
can't remember.
Do you think it's important to keep things fresh and to keep things exciting?
Well, everybody's got a different height of libido, haven't they? So, at whatever age, if you've got it, it's better if you're both compatible to that. Then, yeah, of course. A bit of spice is nice, and that's why I like to wear something like this, just in case you want to be tied up or something. like I say, been a long time, so just in case. Yeah, I just think but going to the threesome, me never ever. As I was younger, now I'm older, nah. I just think you're greedy if that's what you want. Do you know what I mean? And everybody to their own, but no, because two men, nah. And I'm not going to go into why 2 men, because no. And I don't fancy women, so I don't want another woman and a man. Do you know what I'm saying? So for a threesome for me is just totally no. Important to keep it fresh. I think, yeah, you know, I think that's part of a good relationship. But like I say, as long as you both are on the same hymn sheet with that.
Do you think though, within relationships, Kerry, let's go to you on this question. Do you think relationships, when it comes to libido, do you think it's really important that you and your partner are on the same page when it comes to libido? Because if you've got somebody that's right up here and somebody that's here, it becomes more difficult and it becomes more challenging. Do you think you need to be on the same page when it comes?
You sound like you know what you're on about there. What are you asking me that question for? For Christ's sake. I can give an example. A long time ago, I had a very, very good friend when I was younger who got married quite young to an older gentleman. This was before I moved away, and things weren't going right. And she confided in me that they'd introduced another female into the marriage.
Wow.
And it was upsetting that to see her, she was upset because it was she was a bit like what you've just said, different levels. They introduced this female who I think was a couple of years younger than her, definitely younger than her, but I can't remember. And she took over the relationship and they got divorced and he stayed with her.
Oh no.
And you know, that was really sad from a very close friend. We were friends for years as well. It was, and then I moved away. But that was really sad to see. And I think with this story with Ulrika Johnson, the only thing that sticks in my mind with Ulrika Johnson are two things. She had a relationship and affair with Stan Collymore. That was years ago. Don't know why it sticks in my head. I think it was when she was on that Gladiators. Remember that programme? Loved it. The Gladiators.
Yeah, but then she went out with one of the gladiators, didn't she? Hunter.
Yeah. And then she was recently, a few months ago, in the papers because she went out with a daughter. And I think the headline was, "I woke up with two strange men in my house." I think it was friends of the daughters. It was nothing to do with her, but no.
Yeah. Do you think though, Sue? So let's come to you. Do you think?
We were longer than Claire.
Do you think that?
I can't remember what libido is.
But do you think like? Because I'm going down the. I've had, as you know, I've said many times on the screen that I've been in an open relationship and it didn't work for me. It just didn't work. But do you think the idea, especially for our younger generation nowadays, they're put off their actually commitment is about basically you are deciding and hoping that this is the only person you're going to sleep with now for the rest of your life? And do you think that puts people off actually? Do you think monogamous relationships should be something of the past now? And actually when it comes to sex life, with if you have an understanding and you have that communication with somebody, actually it could really work.
Well, you know, I'm old-fashioned. I don't know, how can I speak for the younger generation? I can only speak from personal experience and to know that my son and daughter slept with loads of people before they got married. And I remember my daughter saying, not that we had lots of conversations about it, but we did have occasional conversations about it. And she'd say, "Oh yeah, well, you know, it's nothing. It's nothing. Having sex with someone actually is nothing." She said, and then she said to me, which was really interesting. She said to me, "But it's always so much better when it's someone you care about."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's
it's not just sex. You know, I do think, you know, the men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing has quite there is a lot of truth in that, because well, certainly my generation, I don't know about the next one, and probably not my kids' generation, but for a lot of women of my age, sex and love are the same thing. You know, you don't have sex with someone that you don't love, basically. And that's a really tricky subject, because it's very different now, as you know.
And do you think when we think about the younger generation and even us being in relationships, so Kerry, let's go to you with this one. If you're so the libido, it was like this in a relationship, or you friends of a relationship that you knew, and your partner then was really accepting of that, and you were higher than they were, and they suddenly turned to you and said, what I'm going to do is give you a gift to let you go out and sleep with anybody, to take the pressure off me, to take the pressure, would you accept that gift, or would you be, no, we need to talk about this?
What a weak man. No, I haven't even got anything to add on to that. No, it's not a gift. I nearly swore then. No, it's not a gift. A gift is a nice pair of shoes or a bottle of wine and flowers.
What about you though, Claire? What if a partner said that to you? What if somebody said, actually, because there's many reasons why sex life goes down. Somebody can be poorly, tired, work, whatever, and they still want to please their partner. They still want to show that they love them, and they see in their head, actually, I can't give it at the moment, but go and find somebody that can, and I'm okay with that. How would you feel?
Personally, no. I am a one-person person, and I would never dream of that. And I wouldn't say that to a partner either, because I'm not a jealous person, but I just think, you know, if you're with me, then you're with me for the right reasons. You know, if you want to be with somebody who, you know, can do it all night and every day and or etc., then I'm not for you. Do you know what I mean? So you know, it's just no good.
Yeah, it can ruin relationships though, can't it?
Like I've said before, I just think, you know, in this day and age, it is totally different. You know, from me being a teenager, I probably no makeup, blah blah blah. But today's era is all about puffed up lips, you know, false eyelashes, false hair. Everything is false, you know. And they've got this persona of just going out and being, you know, with false boobs and that. And I'm not dissing it. I'm just thinking a lot of them just look not, I don't want to say it, but you just look as though you're just going out for a good time, which, do you know what I mean? Which, if that's what you want, then you do that. But
there's been in papers recently as well, and how would you feel about this? There's been in papers recently where young people, it was a survey, where young people are saying that if a proposal happens, they will say yes on the condition that if they're not happy after a month, they will get a divorce. So I just think to myself, do you think marriage and real commitment and settling down and all of that in the year of 2022, especially because we've all been locked up for 2 years and can't touch each other and can't do this, do you think it's a thing of the past now? Do you actually think young people just want to be young, free and single?
To proposal and think it was only going to last for a month. That's just absolutely stupid. You know, if you don't want to settle down, you don't want to settle down. Fair dues. You know, if you found someone that you feel you can spend the rest of your life with, it won't be easy. Nobody's saying it's easy. And you know, but you don't go into it thinking, hopefully, you know, oh well, if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna.
Yeah, but you know, look at the TV programs. How the hell is this TV program even sending anything positive out? you know, with this thing, what Ulrika Jones was saying, and not just that. You've got the what's that other one? I don't watch any junk like that. Is it Married at First Sight? I've heard of it. Come on, God, really?
Yeah, but there are, to argue that sentence, Kerry, there are couples that are now famous that have been on Married at First Sight and are really happy in their marriage. So when we think
how do you know they're truly
happy? Well, they're still together. I can't say they're really happy in their marriage, but they're still together. So do you think that we need to be putting our love lives into other people's hands? Do you think we are the worst at choosing who we have in our lives?
No, you're just stupid if you choose someone thick. If you choose someone who doesn't respect you, who dump you after a month of getting engaged, or isn't on your level with feelings and emotions and love and excitement and all that, you know, we're only here once. We've just been speaking about getting old. You know, don't waste your bloody life. You've got to be happy. You've got to be happy.
Married at First Sight, though, I personally think it's just like what's it called?
Love Island?
Yeah, well, that type of thing. What's the name? Yeah, that type of crap. But it's got a name, reality TV. They just want to go on it to be famous, you know, like Big Brother, all those things. And it's like celebs go dating. They're all the celebs who have has-beens. And they just want to, you know, they're probably getting paid for it. But it's like that Married at First Sight. I mean, they did UK, but then they've done Australia as well. But how? I mean, I know you say that some work, but, you know, it's just because they've gelled. But a lot of the time, really, you're going to marry somebody who you've never even spoke to?
Nick, shut up.
The thing is, I have considered it. I have thought about it. I have, honestly, I'm not lying here, I have thought about it, because when I think about choosing a partner and men and all of that, I always seem to go for the wrong people. I always seem to be in that rubbish relationship. And Married at First Sight isn't just joining people together. There's scientists, there's therapists, there's love experts all together, gelling people with personality traits and what they're looking for and all of that.
But
Sometimes, it's like passing it on to a friend, though, isn't it? It's like saying to a friend, "Here's my Tinder profile. Can you have a look for me instead of me looking?"
But it's only what that person's put on that Tinder profile if they've really put that. Do you know what I mean? It's like when they put that photo and you go and meet him and you go, you're not them. You know what I mean? It's like, I get where you're coming from, Nick, and great if you want to do that. I mean, I wouldn't, because I've got kids now, so there's no way. But, you know, nah.
Harry, go on, Sue.
I think the secret to choosing the right partner is really knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it changes as you get older.
Yeah, and I said to my daughter, after I got divorced and we were talking about, you know, getting married and, you know, her relationships and things, because I got married straight out of university and we'd been at university together. So we'd not actually done any grown-up, what I call grown-up living on our own. Okay, we didn't know each other at school. We met at university. We stayed together through university. I spent a year abroad and we dated other people while I was away, came back and we got married straight out of university. So we'd never actually done any real growing up outside of that relationship. And the one bit of advice that I gave to my daughter was, make sure you know who you are and what you want before you settle.
I totally agree with that. But
and don't take any SH1T.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree with that. Carrie, you've got the most important question of this topic, really. Once a cheat, always a cheat? Would you forgive a cheat? Or would you, once cheated, that's it, gone, finished?
Once cheated, gone finished.
Once don't go, are you, because I do know people that have forgiven and are still together, but actually when you sit there and really talk to them, that pain and resentment is still there. You can still see it, you can still hear it, you can still, even though they're trying to, it's like portraying that thing into, I remember being in a relationship in 2019 and portraying to the whole world outside, look how amazing my life is, look how incredible it is. But actually when you speak to people, the fear of being on their own is bigger than the fear.
And that's why, like Sue said, is getting to know yourself, love your own company, love your own surroundings. When you've got this abundance of love for yourself, you will attract a very probably good partner for yourself.
Yeah.
You'll attract people at different levels dependent on your state of mind or how you feel about yourself, your confidence. So yeah, you just said it, haven't you? People are afraid to be on their own. I wouldn't be worried if that was me. I want companionship with someone, of course I do, and a lot of people, and many people do, but it's being comfortable in your own skin for anything that may happen.
Do you think you should be on your own till that happens then? Do you think you should be single until you are comfortable? Should you wipe away a love life?
No, because relationship experiences teach you a lot, make you see how much you've grown, how much you've changed as a person, finding something different attractive in someone that you've never had that feeling before, you've never had that thought before. So no, that would be wrong to say be on your own until life experience.
Carrie, we've known each other for 7-8 years, and I don't think we've ever, I feel kind of like really uncomfortable that I'm talking about sex with you. We've just never done it. It's never the spoken word.
Yeah, I know it's quite a thing, subject, isn't it? I think it's if you're comfortable speaking about stuff like that, it's yeah.
Tell us if you think, though, out there, do you think it's important to keep things fresh in the bedroom? And we got through that quite well. I was wondering which direction that was going to go in. But do you think it's important to keep things fresh in the bedroom? Would you invite a third in? And do you think once a cheat, always a cheat, out my life? Or are you the forgiving person that maybe gives somebody a second chance? Have your say. We've got many ways you can contact us. The Facebook page, the Facebook group, Instagram. We are loading onto TikTok thanks to Zoe. We are going to be there very, very soon. We got looselinks.com, looselinks@gmail.com. Just have your say. Make sure you speak as well as we do. So on to our final subject. Students from Sir Robert Patterson Academy has delivered 100 Easter eggs to the poorly children at Lincoln County Hospital. The pupils formed a community action project designed to raise money to help local causes and identify areas of the community to which they can make a positive contribution. It was formed from the 20 house captains and deputies across the 5 houses at North Highcombe Academy. Kerry, do you think bringing awareness, do you think almost like, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, do you think if something doesn't affect our lives, so doesn't affect our lives personally, that we don't do a lot for causes, or we don't worry about it as much until it hits us or smacks us in the face?
Just say that first bit again, because you cut out a little bit for me then. Do you think
that it doesn't affect us or causes us any worry on our minds, like poorly children, even in our county, until it actually affects us personally and slaps us in the face?
I think it's brilliant what the school have done, isn't it? It is highlighting to children that there are children who are poorly, and it's something nice children to do for children. I I think that should be instilled from schools. And
Claire,
it probably is. It probably is. There's a lot of schools that will be speaking about things. There'll also be, you know, there's a lot of school children which are switched on that'll be aware of stuff like this, I think. And you know, I know children will be aware of, especially things happening at the moment with the Ukraine and Russia. Children are aware of stuff like that. So it's important to make sure children are aware, because that's the world,
it's so
isn't
hard though, isn't it? Because I remember even, and I've said this on the show before, so just switch off your brain if you've already heard this. But apart from the panel, don't you switch off your brains. But
I switched off about 4 years ago, to be honest.
Do you think when it comes to like historical events and stuff like that, so when we go to school and we hear about the First World War and we hear about the Second World War, that actually I remember a kid, and like, even if I'm really honest, even now as an adult, when we do the 2-minute silence and when we do stuff like that, I really have to focus my brain. I really have to think about, because if I don't, I just trundle off to what am I having for tea and what do I need to do for next week and stuff like that. And do you think it's because we're not affected by that story? We are not, our lives aren't personally affected by it. And when it does become affected, that's when we take more notice. Claire?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Well, I personally think it can be. I mean, you know, going back to Ukraine, I mean, just look at what, well, us as community, Great Britain and that is doing for them, you know, but we've always had poorly children in hospital. We've always had homeless, you know, and our history has always been there. And I think that's why schools try and, on the curriculum, to do the ones that will think, well, you know, it would be best to learn. But and again, I think it goes down to the individual, you know, is either they want to know about it, they're not bothered about it, and a lot of the time it is only if it affects you that you are bothered, you know. And I've said that before about disability, you know, off the subject. Unless you're involved or you know what it involves, then it doesn't bother you. You know, it involve you. Yeah. And I think that is it with everything else of life.
But so yours is a really good saying that I've never really forgotten, really, and I have said it on the show before, but it'd be lovely to hear it from the horse's mouth. What do you say about homeless? What's your quote that you always say about homeless, the 3 stages?
You're 3 steps away from being homeless. People are 3 steps away from being homeless. So
and what are those 3 steps?
Well, you know, you may lose your job. If you lose your job, you can't pay your mortgage. So, and there'll be an awful lot of, if you're married with family, you know, you may get divorced because, you know, the family can't cope. You definitely can't pay your mortgage then, and you're, you know, that's it. You're out. If you've no job, how can you save up for a deposit for a flat? You know, that it's just, nobody is that far away from it. Can I just say about the schools thing though? Can I just throw in a note of not disagreement really, but just, I really think social responsibility is a brilliant thing to teach. That's what I call, you know, not just looking at, oh, we're here to take exams, or we're here to, I mean, the ecology is, you know, Greta Thunberg is a prime example, isn't she? You know, of a young person who has taken the whole world on in terms of, you know, raising awareness about the ecology and about the state of our resources. I think it's social responsibility is a really good thing to encourage in children, but I also think we have to let them be children. I think you don't want to you do. I wouldn't want to burden my grandchildren with the responsibilities of the world when they're young, when they're too young.
But then when we
I
get
don't
older,
know what
we
anybody
get.
else thinks. I just, I don't think there's anything wrong with raising awareness. It's a brilliant idea what Robert Pat have done, but I do worry about the children of today, the younger ones, that they've had all this COVID malarkey to cope with, and that I'm not saying you should not make them aware that wars happen, but there's a very fine thread between burdening them with the responsibilities of the whole world when they're young, and helping them to be socially responsible.
Well, I do get that, but even where's the line then? Because we have children and let them be children, but then when we get to adulthood and you try and make people a bit more aware, well, I'm too busy. I've got a too busy lifestyle to be doing A, B, and C. So where do we start? Where do we put it first?
It's like anything, I think, with children. It has to be age appropriate. Is the best way I can say it, really. It's like you can teach. My granddaughter is just 5. She's 5 on Friday. So you can encourage her to share with her school friends. As far as I'm concerned, that's teaching her social responsibility. Because if she shares her toys with a school friend, if she shares her lunch with a school friend who maybe hasn't brought theirs that day, that's encouraging social responsibility.
Kindness, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Kindness.
Exactly. And it's
which
thinking
is instilled
about others as well as yourself.
Ladies, that brings us to the end of the show. As I say every single week, how fast does that hour go? But thank you for being part of this week's Loose Links. Make sure you have your discussion. It's been really entertaining. But can you thank my panel for this evening? Joining me, Nicholas James, is the one with the golden heart. That's Sue Humphrey.
Night, everyone.
The one that loves a bit of tying up, that's Claire Brown in May. And the woman that has a lot of fun, that's Kerry Gillespie. Right, sure you join us next week with a brand new panel and a brand new show. Have a lot of loose fun this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Good night, God bless, and see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.